Let's go Lions! Family, tomorrow is game day. The Detroit Lions are back on the field, and I'm already counting down the hours. Sunday is going to be intense, and our team is coming in with everything to prove why this season has the potential to be historic. My blue and silver heart is already racing, because every matchup from here on out is crucial for what we're building this year. Today, I want to dive right into this upcoming game, the key points that could decide it, and what we as fans can expect when our Lions step onto that field. But before I break it all down, smash that like button, only if you're a true Lions fan. It's amazing to see this fan base united, from those who were cheering back in the Barry Sanders era to the new generation that believes in the bright future this team is creating. Much respect to all of you, and drop a comment right now. One pride. My heart bleeds blue and silver. Tomorrow it's time to roar louder than ever. Now, let's talk about Sunday's game and everything we need to keep an eye on. What's really going on behind the scenes in Detroit right now has fans buzzing, and it all starts with a question that's been hanging in the air for weeks. Why hasn't Hutchinson's contract extension been finalized yet? On the surface, it might look like there's tension, doubts about performance, or even concerns about injuries, but the truth is far simpler, and it's actually nothing to worry about. Hutchinson's agent, Mike McCartney of Vayner Sports, has a track record of moving slowly on these deals. We saw the same thing happen with Alan McNeil, another player McCartney represents. Everyone thought McNeil's extension would get wrapped up quickly last summer, but it didn't happen until October. The same pattern is unfolding here. Brad Holmes himself has already confirmed that conversations are happening, and the overwhelming expectation is that this deal will get done soon, within weeks, maybe a month. To put it bluntly, there's about a 99.9999999% chance this extension is finalized without a hitch. But here's where the curiosity kicks in. Do you as a fan feel completely comfortable with that? Or does the delay still make you uneasy, even knowing the history? That's the kind of tension that makes this story worth following right up until pen hits paper. Now, while we're on the topic of opinions that stir emotions, we have to address a recent article by Carlos Monarrez that has fans shaking their heads. In it, he floats the idea that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell could somehow be on the hot seat if the Lions don't meet lofty expectations this season. Think about how absurd that sounds for a moment. This is the same leadership group that took the Lions to the NFC Championship 2 years ago, secured a division title and first seed last season, and has completely transformed the culture of the franchise. Yet, Monarrez argues that failure to win could put them at risk. That's not just unlikely, it's borderline laughable. Lions fans know what they have in Holmes and Campbell, the best general manager and head coach duo the organization has seen in decades. There's no controversy here, no whispers behind the scenes. The foundation in Detroit is stronger than it's ever been, and pretending otherwise feels like shock value journalism at its worst. Remember, this is the same writer who defended Matt Patricia when almost everyone else knew the team needed a change. Sometimes, it seems like Monarrez makes a point just to go against the grain. But what about you? Does any part of you think there's truth to his claim? Or is this as ridiculous to you as it sounds to me? On the brighter side of things, there's fantastic news about rookie wide receiver Isaac Tessia. Earlier this week, he was sidelined with an illness, and that raised concern for fans who feared it might affect his availability for Sunday's game against the Green Bay Packers. Well, worry no more. Tessia returned to practice on Thursday, exactly as Dan Campbell predicted. That's a huge boost because Tessia, as the team's number 3 wide receiver, presents a nightmare matchup for Green Bay. With defenses already needing to account for Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams, adding Tessia into the mix makes Detroit's offense even more unpredictable. And don't forget, this is an offense that already has Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery ready to tear through defenses on the ground. With all these weapons, someone will always be open, and Tessia's presence ensures there are mismatches everywhere on the field. So, Lions fans, how would you describe this development in one word? Drop it in the comments. I know the energy around his return is through the roof. But if there's one thing that's been stealing headlines and irritating fans at the same time, it's Micah Parsons. The Dallas Cowboys star linebacker took a direct shot at Detroit, openly saying, "I never liked Detroit," and claiming he always felt there was a rivalry between the Cowboys and the Lions. On top of that, he suggested the games between the two franchises are always like heavyweight fights, and he's excited to face Detroit again. That kind of talk might sound like confidence, but to Lions fans, it feels like bulletin board material. The disrespect is reaching new levels, media pundits ranking Detroit as low as 4th in the NFC North, Packers fans chirping nonstop, and now Parsons tossing verbal jabs. The timing couldn't be better for motivation, though. Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker are surely licking their chops for the chance to line up against Parsons, and if the Lions' ground game takes control with Montgomery and Gibbs, Detroit might not just silence him, They could dominate outright. This is the kind of storyline that injects even more intensity into Sunday's matchup. And speaking of outside opinions, Christopher Knox from Bleacher Report recently floated a bold trade idea. Detroit acquiring New York Giants edge rusher Kayvon Thibodeau in exchange for a 2026 second-round pick. On paper, adding Thibodeau could make sense in the event of a serious injury on the defensive line, but the price tag is steep. Giving up that much draft capital would leave the Lions without a second, third, or fourth-round pick, which feels like too much to sacrifice unless desperation sets in. And let's not forget, Detroit passed on trading for Chase Young last season when they arguably needed help most, which shows how cautious Holmes and Campbell are with their draft assets. The odds of this trade happening are slim, but it does raise a question. Should the Lions consider making an aggressive move if injuries pile up, or should they trust the roster they've built and keep their draft flexibility intact? At the end of the day, this is what makes following the Lions so exhilarating right now. You've got contract drama that's not really drama, critics trying to stir the pot with takes about leadership, young players like Isaac Tessia stepping up at just the right time, and rivals like Micah Parsons fueling the fire with trash talk. Add in trade rumors swirling in the background, and you've got all the ingredients for one of the most compelling weeks leading up to a game we've had in a long time. So here's my question for you. With everything going on, Hutchinson's deal, Menarez's hot seat claim, Tessia's return, Parsons' comments, and the trade talk, what stands out the most to you as a fan? Drop your thoughts below, because this conversation is just getting started. And here's the thing about all of this. It's not just noise, it's fuel. Every storyline converging right now is building towards Sunday at 4:25 p.m. against the Green Bay Packers, and this matchup already feels like more than just a regular season game. It's about proving something. Aiden Hutchinson's looming contract deal shows the Lions are locking down their future. The Carlos Menarez article, as misguided as it seems, reminds everyone that national voices still don't fully respect what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have built. Isaac Tessia's return from illness underlines the depth and resilience of this roster. Micah Parsons' comments? They light a fire under every player in that locker room. And trade rumors involving Kayvon Thibodeau? Those stir up the imagination, making fans picture just how dominant this defense could become if reinforcements were ever brought in. It's all part of a bigger narrative. Detroit is no longer a team trying to earn respect. It's a team demanding it. Think about where this franchise was not too long ago. The national conversation used to be about curses, collapses, and rebuilds that never seemed to end. Now, when people talk about the Lions, it's about Super Bowl windows, powerhouse offenses, and a culture that other teams envy. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have turned Detroit into a destination, not just for players but for fans who want to believe in something bigger. That's why it feels almost insulting when outsiders try to diminish the progress or question the direction. If you've been watching the growth year by year, you know this team is built differently. You know the hunger is real. And that's exactly what makes this week so exciting. The chance to silence every doubter, whether they're writers, rival fans, or opposing players. Now, let's not overlook how strategic this coaching staff has been. Dan Campbell isn't just the motivator everyone loves to quote in press conferences. He's shown he can game plan with the best of them. Pair that with Aaron Glenn's defensive vision and Ben Johnson's innovative offensive schemes, and you realize this team isn't leaning on hype alone. They've got the brains and the execution to back up all the talk. So when Micah Parsons says he's never liked Detroit and that he sees a rivalry, well, rivalries are forged on the field, not in sound bites. And if this offensive line gets rolling, if Montgomery and Gibbs punch holes in the defense, then Parsons might walk off the field on Sunday with more respect for Detroit than he's ever admitted before. But let's circle back to Hutchinson, because his contract situation is the most important thread of all these stories. When that extension gets done, and it's more than just numbers on paper. It's a statement about keeping the heart of this defense in Detroit long term. Hutchinson isn't just a hometown kid who became a star. He's a symbol of the identity this team has built, tough, relentless, and unafraid of expectations. Losing him was never really on the table, but locking him down is the kind of move that sends a message to the rest of the league. The Lions aren't renting talent anymore. They're building dynasties. As for the article claiming Holmes and Campbell could be on the hot seat, let's be real. That's not just wrong, it's disconnected from reality. These two aren't just safe, they're thriving. They've constructed the most stable foundation this franchise has seen in decades. Campbell has the locker room. Holmes has nailed draft after draft. Together, they've given the Lions what every NFL team dreams of: alignment, trust, and a shared vision. You don't put that on the hot seat, You build statues for it, and Tessia's presence against the Packers can't be overstated. Every defense that prepares for Detroit focuses first on St. Brown, then on Jameson Williams, then on Gibbs out of the backfield. But when you add Tessia into that equation, suddenly the coverage schemes don't look so secure anymore. He's the kind of player who doesn't need 10 catches to impact a game. Just 2 or 3 big plays from him could tilt momentum. That's the type of X-Factor fans should be watching for on Sunday. All of this leads to one undeniable conclusion. The Detroit Lions are in the middle of one of the most exciting moments in franchise history. There's contract drama that isn't really drama. Critics trying to invent pressure where none exists. Young players stepping into key roles. And rivals throwing shade that only makes this team hungrier. Add the possibility of bold trades into the mix, and you've got storylines that keep fans glued to every update. So here's where I turn it back to you. When you look at everything swirling around the Lions right now, the Hutchinson contract, Menarez's hot seat claims, Tessia's return, Parsons' trash talk, and the trade chatter, which one grabs your attention the most? Which storyline makes you lean forward in your seat and say, this is the one that matters? Let me know your thoughts, because at the end of the day, this team isn't just Detroit's anymore, it's America's most intriguing team to watch, and your voice as a fan is part of that story. And if you think about it, that's what makes being a Lions fan so special right now. For years, the national spotlight only came to Detroit when something went wrong. It was about heartbreaks, about what-ifs, about